I'm not the one to really go into controversies that are this early before the game comes out unless I know for absolute certain by the type of individuals who make games. Like, if they go after the consumer, go after the player, shit on the IP, shit on the product. That's usually when without a doubt, even if the game's good at that point. I mean, I just refuse to support that type of business model where you shit on the very people that put food on your table. And again, this is for any reason, right? You can have whatever ideological reason you want. I don't care if you shit on the people putting food on your table. I will not buy your game. But Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is an interesting situation, right? Because a lot of people are coming after it because there's apparently or what we were told, and this is completely unstantiated, completely, random information that, you know, we've gotten that there's an unskippable gay scene in Kingdom Comes Deliverance. And I believe this is a case of overcorrection people are having because, one, we don't even know if it's in there. It's just completely unfounded information with no proof. And the developers are keeping hush hush because, again, you have these types of things with your publisher where you're not supposed to really give a lot of information. But I'm thinking back to the first Kingdom Come game. Now, I couldn't finish the first one because that shit was buggy as all fuck. And I did not care for the combat system. But there are like these bandits in the woods, and if you follow that sort of quest line, you find out that they are a bunch of homosexuals doing homosexual things in the woods. And that it's like at the time period, they knew they would be persecuted, and that sort of gave, a certain level of respect to, that storyline. You could even completely skip past it, or you could fucking kill them. But that gave credence to that storyline, and they're like people using the argument, well, there was gay stuff in Kingdom Come Deliverance before, and yeah, but people didn't care in the first one because it was done right, and Kingdom Come was a good game. And I remember when the developers were giving shit because there were people that are like, there's not any people of color in this game. And the developer's like, yeah, it's a historical game that takes place in fucking Bohemia or some shit. Believe it or not, there weren't a lot of people of color in this time period in this area back then. And then people pulled out a bunch of fringe documents saying, "Oh, well, they're the Moors. They were Islamic invaders. They were here." And the developer's like, "All right, yeah, I see what's happening. Shut the fuck up and get out." And a lot of people gave praised the developer for not standing for the hate mob, the ideological and racial hate mobs that were going through entertainment at the time. So I can completely understand why people are now up in arms about this because at the end of the day, at least if we're going about the first game, like the main character is a Christian man who's born in Bohemia, who's into Christian values. He's white and he's straight, and that's just the way that character is. And a lot of the controversy is coming because you could even, like, to explain this, it's kind of like why people hate when race swaps and gender swaps happen because it's usually almost always done in one way, and you might find some tiny specific individual cases where it's done the other way, but for the most part the race swaps are done one way, and this disrespects the character, it disrespects the IP, it disrespects the consumers because you're trying to, you know, you're trying to sell them on this, like, effectively a lie, like this story, and they can't do that if the character changes. We're talking people that like anime, like they will get pissed off if a single frill on Goku's hair is misplaced. And things like this were done intentionally to garner the controversy because at the time they were playing Spot the Racist, and it's like, okay, you can play Spot the Racist, but you're not playing put out a fucking product that the people want to buy. And this is why people are up in arms. And the developer kind of reneged on a couple things because at first he was like, no, this is the character, this is who he is, and this is how he'll go about the game. But now they're kind of reneging on that and saying, okay, well, we're giving a bit of freedom to the player. And, I think that's just a bad decision, right? To start out with one vision, then completely turn back on it for no reason. I think that even if it's a teeny tiny change, I still think that's just a piss poor decision from Warhorse Studios, right? And I get it, they're not giving a lot of information because I mean whatever deals they have their publisher, they're not allowed to. But yeah, a lot of people want to play this game and they don't want politics. And yeah, even if people do not want gay characters in their game and won't buy it if there is, that's 100% fine. And I'm gonna tell you why it's fine, because it's a product, right? And if people don't want to buy a product for any reason, that's fine. I mean, and that's it, and that's all. Like, people like to moralize about this and idealize about this, but at the end of the day, this is a product, and you can't shame the money out of people's hands. You can't shame the character of the individual for choosing not to play this. And a lot of people just don't really like controversies of these things because they muddy the game. And I'm being told a lot that, oh, well, this is a PR stunt. And I'm like, well, shit like this didn't work for Concord, right? It didn't work for Dustborn. It didn't work for that Avow game. Like, negative controversies don't work. I mean, it didn't work for The Last of Us 2, right? When that controversy happened. So, I don't think it's going to work here. And a lot of people are just sick of this culture. Like, even if making him gay would have made the story better, like, being done with the culture that's happening, with, the cultural problems that's happening, and the changes being done to entertainment is still just a bad decision if it's happening, right? Again, I'm only making the argument if they're actually, going with, and reneging and making him more of a fleshed out character. And like making him more of a, not fleshed out, sort of like a malleable character. Because that's not what they said to begin with, right? So, and that's all I really got to say about the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 controversy. I think it's just an overcorrection happening by the quote unquote anti woke, right? But I believe, again, we need to go back to why this is the case. Well, the overcorrection is happening because there were movements to introduce things into products, into games that the customer did not want under any circumstances, but was imposed on them. And then if you're like, "What the fuck is this?" They threw a morally charged label at you. Like, this is something that happened, and we can pretend it didn't happen. We can play make believe, but the problem isn't. The problem's not going anywhere. Like, we're not going to will that this type of culture was happening in the past 4 years just out of existence just by saying it. So anyway, that's all I really got to say about this. Peace.